But President Trump is smart.
This is a brief moment in time.
But President Trump is smart because that's why he wants people to tune into this relationship. He's quite frankly bored with Congress. He's bored with congressional leaders, and he said it himself. He wanted to be the mayor of New York City, so he loved everything about this meeting and wants people to tune in for the next one, which may be even more substantive and interesting.
I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
Breaking news out of the White House, that Oval Office meeting between President Trump and the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. We have been watching it for the past number of minutes. It was a pretty wide-ranging conversation where the president seemed to offer praise to the mayor-elect of New York City, someone who he had previously called a communist and talked about in a certainly relatively derogatory way compared to what we saw today.
Clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
That's okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
This is how it should be. When you start getting called names, just accept it. Just take it. It doesn't harm you. It means nothing. People have called me an anti-Semite. I just say, okay, I guess I am. And then they stop calling you it because it has no power over you anymore.
Just days ago, you referred to President Trump as a despot who betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve the relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yeah.
Mamdani there, continuing as he stood next to the president to talk about the message that he's been focused on of affordability for New Yorkers. And even when asked a number of times about different topics, kept bringing it back to that point in a very interesting display of the political skills that we saw land him in this position. Caitlin, this was a much anticipated meeting.
I'm curious what she thought.
And it really was about two New Yorkers. I mean, at one point, the president of the United States looks at Mamdani and says, you know, you got a job that I really used to want.
I mean, this is why politics is fascinating, Casey, because watching this meeting play out that was so hyped up, with the White House calling Zohran Mamdani a communist just yesterday and basically saying, wait and see what happens when the two leaders are in the same room. The way this just played out, with the president playing basically host to Mamdani inside the Oval Office, I think that entire interaction that just happened before cameras can basically be summed up as in that moment when a reporter was asking Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect, if he views President Trump as a fascist. And as Mamdani went to answer that question, before he could even really start to answer, Casey, the president intervened and laughed it off and said, that's okay, you can just say yes, because it's easier than having to explain. He said that Zohran Mamdani could say yes, he believes President Trump is a fascist. On a lot of issues where they do not agree, Casey, I mean, yes, they kept going back to affordability, but they were asked about crime, they were asked about ICE, they were asked about the National Guard, they were asked about anti-Semitism, they were asked about so many of these issues that obviously have defined their relationship and also the mayoral's race in New York City, period. And they really sidestepped a lot of the issues where they disagree and kept returning to where they do agree and where they believe they can work together. And the president said he believed it was a productive meeting. It was a great meeting. He said he would feel comfortable living in Zohran Mamdani's New York City at one point. And he was asked about comments that Elise Stefanik has made critical of Zohran Mamdani. The president said he disagreed with her on those. It was just a fascinating meeting all around to see this incredibly warm relationship between the two of them. Obviously, politics is at play here for both of them. But the president, I mean, on multiple times, Casey, was grabbing Zohran Mamdani's hand and shaking it and laughing with him and pointing out his staffers who were inside the room. And so just when you think a meeting is going to be tense and fiery, I mean, sometimes you get President Trump recognizing political talent and welcoming him into the Oval Office.
Trump holds significant real estate in New York as well. It's not going to help him to talk bad about New York so that people start leaving New York. It's only going to hurt him financially to do so. Plus, Zohran could be there for beyond Trump's stay at the White House. Trump has a stake in the Trump Tower, which is $61 million, which includes a penthouse. He has a 30% stake in 1290 Avenue of the Americas, which is valued around $248 million to $287 million. 17 condos with some retail space, which is valued around $101 million. Trump Plaza, few units and leases, retail and garage space. What good would it do Trump to talk bad about his own neighborhood?
But then, I mean, Trump is a lifelong New Yorker, and he said that he went to a pharmacy in Queens, I believe, and was saying that is where Trump's father used to go to pick up his medicine, and that was the pharmacist that he used to use. So he was appealing to him on all kinds of levels, not just political, but also the personal ones. And obviously, he had been, preparing for this meeting. He had consulted with people who have met with the president before going into this because they wanted it to be a successful outcome here, given this was his first time in the Oval Office with Trump.
Game recognizes game, I guess. Caitlin, can I ask you, I mean, this president clearly has one way when he is in person with someone who is willing to do the work to charm him. What kind of effort do you think came from the Mamdani side here to try to generate this as an outcome? Because again, it is extraordinarily different to see them together in person and the way the president reacts to that than it is on his social media, where, as you point out, he was calling him a communist just yesterday, essentially.
Yeah, and who knows if this will last. Obviously, if they disagree and the president tries to withhold federal funding, I mean, this is not by any means permanent. But, when world leaders come to the White House, they often try to bring a gift or some kind of invitation or something to flatter the president and win him over. I was listening to Mamdani talk there. A few things he said stood out to me. He pointed out to the president that 1 in 10 voters who voted for Mamdani for mayor, he says also voted for Trump for president. That was something the president clearly liked and highlighted. He talked about how they both ran on affordability and realized that as a key political issue for voters.
They're both populists. That's the correlation there. Both of them are on America First platform.
I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
He won't say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very clear.
And his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right,
and I want to be very clear. I believe every state should be a state of equal rights.
I'm an American. I believe in separation of church and state. It's absurd that we have American journalists trying to compel American citizens into being for any sort of religious state. And of all people, it's coming from leftist journalists, and the shaming is coming from leftist politicians.
What were your sort of takeaways? What stuck out to you? How do you see and understand what just happened?
Well, I looked at it and saw a lot of warmth, respect, and affection, actually, between the two men, which means that the private meeting and what they talked about worked. And they were taking each other's measure, and there's a respect for capable, as you said, game respects game. The other thing that I think is really important, as a former mayor, you now have the president's blessing with their cabinet, from transportation to public housing to all the resources that are available, to actually continue to access both the cabinet secretaries and the essential resources if the mayor wants to see his agenda through. And they found places on the first meeting, they both had an interest in finding that common ground. So I kind of looked at it and said, what you saw there was probably, they looked at each other, took a measure, they said what they said before about each other. That was then, this is now, and the road is ahead. So the past is the past, and the future is the opportunity for both of them. And they showed respect. And I think that's essential for this president, the way he operates.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a rare. This is not a president who does a lot necessarily of embracing, unifying, showing any semblance of connection with people who otherwise might disagree with him. It seems noteworthy on that front. I want Jeff Zalany. I want to. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Jump in. No, go ahead.
The other thing is, I mean, the president also wanted a good meeting because it's an easy way to take a lot of other pieces of the news off the table, and it served his function to say, see, I'm focused on affordability too, given that you just had an election in which it's very clear the public doesn't think he focuses on affordability.
He could have distracted and changed the news cycle by having a contentious meeting as well.
Jeff Zeleny, I want to dig in for a second to that point that Zohran Mamdani made about Trump voters and Trump Mamdani voters, essentially, and how that flashes back to, we were talking as we were watching about the 2016 campaign trail and the overlap between people who wanted to support Bernie Sanders, but then ended up obviously voting for Donald Trump in the general election. What did you make of it?
That was extraordinary and at the top of President Trump's mind there. I mean, he's the one who went there and said, there is overlap between our voters, but then immediately reverted back to something he loves to talk about, his winning campaign of 2016. And he talked about the fact that there are these interesting concentric circles and overlap between Sanders supporters and Trump supporters. We saw that in Michigan in 2016. We saw that in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, all states that he won. Of course, 4 years later, he lost. But I thought that was so curious. But to Ram's point about President Trump, he knew exactly what he was doing today. He's playing host. One of his favorite things to do is to play host. He loves the Oval Office. He was sitting down, clearly in charge. The mayor-elect was standing above him on the same place that staffers stand, and made the point that, look, he was trying to step into Mamdani's glow a little bit here on affordability. That was very clear. This isn't the time to fight it. Now, this does not mean that this is going to last. The funding fights are going to come, but President Trump is smart.
This is a brief moment in time.
But President Trump is smart because that's why he wants people to tune into this relationship. He's quite frankly bored with Congress. He's bored with congressional leaders, and he said it himself. He wanted to be the mayor of New York City, so he loved everything about this meeting and wants people to tune in for the next one, which may be even more substantive and interesting.
I want to remind everyone of some of this. Jamie, I want you to weigh in, but just to kind of play back one of the more glowing moments for the president where he told Mamdani that he thinks he's going to be a great mayor. Let's watch.
I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true.
There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. Now, we'll see when the midterm elections come around and every Republican wants to tie their Democratic opponent in their congressional race to Zohran Mamdani and his socialist policies in New York City. But what do you make of it?
And to Jeff's point, just wait a day or two. The capital letters will come back.
Resume.
I don't think that it will work. I don't think that you can argue against socialism during the midterm when we're in the middle of a recession, particularly when you have all-time highs in the stock market. It's just not going to work. You can defend your current economic system when the current economic system is working for the majority of people in that system. But the moment you start saying, oh, he wants socialism, he wants to change how things are working, the economy is not working for the majority of people right now, especially young people. The K-shaped economy has always been a thing. The issue is when you have too many people on that bottom stroke. If Republicans try and win by fear-mongering about socialism and communism, they're going to lose. I guarantee you right now, I'm calling it right now, they will lose. They have to focus on housing affordability and future prospects for the young, 40 and under. If you don't convince those who are 35 and younger that there is a future for them economically, that there is a ladder for them to climb on, you're not going to win. You're not even going to come close. All of the woke issues that motivate people to vote aren't going to matter. Nobody knows this better on the right than Tucker Carlson.